Canada, a huge country stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. It's known for its friendly people, beautiful scenery, and belief in fairness for everyone. This modern identity is the result of a long history shaped by indigenous peoples, European colonialism, and lots of immigration. From vibrant indigenous traditions to things left behind by French and British rule, Canada's history is woven into who it is today. Join us as we explore the important events and people that have shaped this amazing nation. Long before Europeans arrived, Canada was home to many different indigenous peoples. These diverse groups had already established complex societies, each with its own unique way of life. They lived in harmony with the land, drawing sustenance from the forests, rivers, and plains. Their knowledge of the environment was profound, allowing them to thrive in various climates and terrains across the vast expanse of what is now Canada. The First Nations, Inuit, and Métis developed their own unique cultures, languages, and traditions, deeply connected to the land. Each group had its own distinct social structures, spiritual beliefs, and ways of life. The First Nations, for example, were known for their intricate beadwork, storytelling, and spiritual ceremonies. The Inuit, living in the Arctic, developed specialized tools and techniques for hunting and fishing in extreme conditions. The Métis, with their mixed indigenous and European heritage, created a vibrant culture that blended traditions from both worlds. The Haudenosaunee, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy, influenced modern democracy with their advanced political system. Their great law of peace established a sophisticated form of governance that emphasized consensus and collective decision-making. This system inspired some of the democratic principles that are foundational to modern governments. The Haudenosaunee's ability to maintain peace and unity among different nations within the Confederacy is a testament to their political acumen and diplomatic skills. The Inuit adapted to the tough Arctic, using their cleverness to survive. They built igloos from blocks of snow, which provided insulation against the harsh cold. Their clothing, made from animal skins and furs, was expertly designed to keep them warm. The Inuits' deep understanding of their environment allowed them to hunt seals, whales, and other marine animals, ensuring their communities had enough food and resources to endure the long, dark winters. The Métis, with their mixed heritage, played a big role in the fur trade. They acted as intermediaries between European traders and indigenous communities, facilitating the exchange of goods and knowledge. The Métis were skilled hunters, trappers, and traders, and their contributions were crucial to the success of the fur trade economy. Their unique culture, which combined elements of both indigenous and European traditions, is celebrated today through vibrant festivals, music, and dance. These indigenous societies represent the lasting legacy of Canada's first inhabitants. Their traditions, stories, and knowledge have been passed down through generations, preserving a rich cultural heritage. Indigenous elders play a vital role in this process, sharing their wisdom and experiences with younger generations. The artifacts and ceremonies of these communities offer a glimpse into their history and way of life, reminding us of the deep roots that Indigenous peoples have in this land. Their deep connection to the land and rich cultural heritage continue to shape who Canada is. Today, Indigenous communities are actively working to revitalize their languages, traditions, and cultural practices. They're also advocating for their rights and seeking to address historical injustices. The resilience and strength of indigenous peoples are evident in their ongoing efforts to preserve their heritage and protect the land that has sustained them for millennia. As we move forward, it is essential to recognize and honor the contributions of indigenous peoples to the fabric of Canadian society. The 1500s marked a big change with the arrival of European explorers. The Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, made a settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland. Jacques Cartier's trips in the 1530s marked the beginning of lasting European interest. Samuel de Champlain started Quebec City in 1608, which is considered the birth of New France. The British, led by John Cabot, also established a presence in Newfoundland. The arrival of Europeans brought a clash of cultures and a fight for control of the land. The 1600s and 1700s saw a lot of fighting between France and Britain for control of North America. These two European powers were locked in a fierce struggle to expand their territories and influence in the New World. The competition was not just about land, but also about resources, trade routes, and strategic advantages. Both nations sought to dominate the fur trade, which was highly lucrative at the time. This intense rivalry led to numerous conflicts and battles, each side trying to outmaneuver the other in a bid for supremacy. The 7 Years' War, fought from 1756 to 1763, was a major turning point. This global conflict, often referred to as the First World War, saw battles not only in North America, but also in Europe, Africa, and Asia. In North America, it was known as the French and Indian War. The war pitted the British and their colonial allies against the French and their indigenous allies. The outcome of this war would reshape the political landscape of the continent, setting the stage for future developments. The Treaty of Paris in 1763 gave control of New France to Britain. This treaty marked the end of French colonial ambitions in North America. As a result, Britain gained vast territories, including Canada and the land east of the Mississippi River. The French retained control of a few small islands, but their influence in the region was significantly diminished. This shift in power had far-reaching consequences for the future of North America. The war had huge consequences for indigenous peoples, breaking up alliances and forcing communities to move. Many indigenous groups had allied with the French, hoping to protect their lands and way of life. With the French defeat, these alliances were shattered. The British, now in control, often disregarded previous agreements and treaties made with indigenous nations. This led to widespread displacement as indigenous communities were forced off their ancestral lands and pushed further west. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 recognized indigenous land rights, but it was often ignored. Issued by King George III, the proclamation aimed to stabilize relations with indigenous peoples by halting the westward expansion of settlers. It established a boundary line, known as the Proclamation Line, beyond which colonists were forbidden to settle. However, this policy was frequently violated by settlers and land speculators, leading to further conflicts and tensions. The clash of empires and the displacement of indigenous peoples left a lasting impact. The colonial struggles between France and Britain and the subsequent British victory set the stage for the future development of Canada and the United States. Indigenous communities faced ongoing challenges as they navigated the changing political landscape. The legacy of these conflicts continues to be felt today as indigenous peoples strive to reclaim their rights and preserve their cultures. The struggle for recognition and reconciliation is still an important issue in Canadian society today. Efforts to address historical injustices and build a more equitable future are ongoing. Indigenous leaders and communities continue to advocate for their rights, seeking justice and recognition for the wrongs of the past. Reconciliation initiatives aim to heal the wounds of history and create a more inclusive and respectful society for all Canadians. In the middle of the 1800s, there was a growing desire for self-government among the British North American colonies. The colonies, which included present-day Canada, were under British rule, and many colonists felt that they needed more control over their own affairs. This sentiment was driven by a combination of economic, political, and social factors. The desire for self-governance was not just about political autonomy, it was also about economic independence and the ability to make decisions that directly affected the lives of the colonists. On July 4, 1867, the British North America Act united Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the province of Canada into one dominion called Canada. This act was a monumental step in the creation of a new nation. The Confederation was seen as a way to strengthen the colonies against potential threats from the United States and to create a more robust and unified economy. The union of these colonies marked the beginning of a new era, where the newly formed Dominion of Canada could start to chart its own course, both politically and economically. John A. Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister, played a key role in shaping the new nation. His vision for Canada included a strong central government and the expansion of the country from coast to coast. Macdonald's leadership was instrumental in navigating the early challenges of Confederation, including the integration of diverse regions and cultures into a single political entity. His policies and decisions laid the foundation for the modern Canadian state, and his legacy is still felt in the country's political landscape today. The Dominion of Canada bought huge territories from the Hudson's Bay Company, opening up the West for people to settle. This acquisition was crucial for the expansion of Canada, as it provided vast tracts of land for agriculture, resource extraction, and settlement. The purchase of these territories also meant that Canada could extend its influence and control over a larger area, which was essential for its growth and development as a nation. The westward expansion was seen as a way to fulfill the vision of a transcontinental country, stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The Canadian Pacific Railway connected the country from coast to coast. This monumental engineering feat was not just about transportation, it was about unifying the nation. The railway made it possible to move people, goods, and resources across vast distances, which was essential for the economic development of the country. It also played a critical role in the settlement of the Western Territories, as it provided a means for new settlers to travel to and from these remote areas. The construction of the railway was a symbol of national unity and progress, and it remains an iconic part of Canada's history. The westward expansion often pushed Indigenous peoples off their land, leading to conflict and resentment. The arrival of settlers and the construction of the railway disrupted traditional ways of life and led to the displacement of many Indigenous communities. These conflicts were marked by violence and resistance as indigenous peoples fought to protect their land and a way of life. The impact of this expansion is still felt today as indigenous communities continue to struggle with the legacy of displacement and marginalization. The history of westward expansion is a complex and often painful chapter in Canada's history, but it is essential to understanding the country's development and the challenges it faces today. The 1900s was a time of big change for Canada. Canada's participation in World War I was a turning point, creating a sense of national unity. The Statute of Westminster in 1931 recognized Canada's ability to make its own laws. The Great Depression had a terrible impact, leading to the creation of social programs to help people. World War II saw Canada play an important role in the Allied victory and experience economic growth after the war. Immigration increased a lot, adding to Canada's growing multicultural mix. The latter half of the 20th century saw Canada embrace multiculturalism, making both English and French official languages in 1969, recognized both languages as equally important. The Multiculturalism Act of 1988 formally recognized Canada's diversity. Canada has struggled with how it treated Indigenous peoples in the past, including the residential school system. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's final report in 2015 made recommendations for reconciliation. Canada is working to fix past wrongs and create a fairer future for Indigenous peoples. Canada has earned a reputation for supporting peace and international cooperation. Lester B. Pearson's idea during the Suez Crisis in 1956 established Canada as a leader in peacekeeping. Canada has participated in many peacekeeping missions around the world. The country is a founding member of the United Nations, NATO, and the Commonwealth. Canada has been a strong voice for human rights and sustainable development. The country is committed to addressing climate change and promoting a low-carbon economy. From its ancient indigenous roots to its emergence as a modern multicultural nation, Canada's history is a mix of exploration, settlement, conflict, and resilience. The country has dealt with the effects of colonialism and the challenges of building a diverse nation. Canada has become a symbol of peace, prosperity, and social justice. By learning from the past, we can continue to build a more fair, inclusive, and successful Canada. This journey through Canada's past is a story that belongs to all Canadians and is still being written.